Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry about the last 2 days. The video software's not been working right, but we'll get it together. Either way it go, we'll get it together. So, welcome back to what's under the desk, and let's go and check out what we have. We have an apron. This apron is gonna serve us in this dish we're gonna watch together of a lomo saltado. I made the video. I've been editing the video, probably about 6 hours in total of editing because the software kept crashing. So apparently, for some reason, the new Adobe isn't allowing me to do fonts. And so I wanted to put out fonts on the top of each section. But I just thought maybe it'll be funner if we try to do a voiceover or a side by side and see exactly how this dish is made. It's not going to take long, probably about, I think, 15 minutes total with all of this video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's go ahead and watch. Okay. So first and foremost, we have our ingredients, which is a fine little list that I have set up here and on my Facebook page where you can go ahead and get those ingredients for yourself. And basically, you're just gonna need a few things: a few potatoes, onion, steak, or a lomo, or what we call tenderloin. And you're gonna use those items to make this very traditional Peruvian dish. But you can choose if you want to make your potatoes from scratch, or you can actually just get some frozen potatoes and fry those up in the air fryer or in the oven, or deep fry 'em. So in my process, I go through cleaning the potatoes first, soaking them in cold water, and then after getting them soaked, move on to the next things because everything is about prep. So here we have our tomatoes. We're gonna go ahead and cut those up in wedges. About 8 wedges in total will come out, so you get 4 on each side of the tomato. You're gonna peel out the seeds to make sure you don't have extra juice in this dish, um, and then we're gonna reserve that. And so while we're reserving the onions, which is gonna be next in this video, I'm also gonna do the same thing. We're gonna peel off the first layer. We're gonna take out the bulb that's in the middle, and we're gonna put those aside after cutting them into wedges of 8. We'll get back to cutting those French fries. And so, like what we do here in Peru is we typically have potato wedges, kind of like you might find in a southern gas station, without the breading, just regular wedges, and we use those as fries. It allows the juices to be soaked up into the potato. Anyway, so we get the onions together, we get the tomatoes together, and before you know it, you're moving on to making your fries. And what I like to do is try to avoid to have as much starch by constantly soaking my potatoes. And if you want to leave the peel on, you can definitely do that. One of the things I highly recommend people to do, and I don't do it in this clip, but to keep a towel underneath the cutting board. I'll do it later in a moment. We'll get to it. But at this stage, the board, you start seeing the board start slipping a little bit. And so to avoid that from happening, you might want to keep a towel, dry towel underneath your cutting board. Yeah, I made this dish. I'll give you a little bit of my personal history with it. I've tried it a million times. I've tried it in different places. I've had it really good and I've had it really bad. But for the most part, I've learned, and this recipe is basically what my mother-in-law would use for her catering. It's one of those dishes that, I mean, you can't miss if you respect the ingredients. And the first ingredient you have to respect is meat. You have to know which meat to use, which one will cook well, which one's not going to be tough once people bite into it. And respect that it's a dish that's cooked quickly and should be served quickly. If it's not, then it's going to get cold. The meat's going to toughen up sometimes, or you just might have what is the worst part, a reaction with the onions, because onions can spoil. And I think not everybody knows that, but if you cook onions, and like we're going to do, we're going to kind of like flambe it. Um, a lot of people think that the onions are going to survive a long time after being cooked, and they may make this dish early in the day and then serve it at night. And if it's not refrigerated, forget about it. You're going to be sick all night long. Like I said, I've had bad ones, but for the most part, making it for yourself and making it for your family or friends, it doesn't take any time at all. Here we pulled out our ruler, and like I said, this dish, if you're getting used to cooking, if you're not used to it and you can't eyeball things, I gave you a list of things you can do, you can use to help you with your measurements. And a ruler, a metal ruler, is a great way to actually get down and see, okay, is this 1 inch, 2 inches, or a little bit less, so that when you get to the part where you're frying it, you're not gonna overcook it or undercook it. And I know a lot of people are afraid of cooking beef or even chicken because they're afraid of undercooking it. At this stage, I have some slices that are 2 inches and the rest of them are 1 inches. And that's because my son, he's like me, he prefers his meat on the raw side. So I tried to make sure I had some in there for him. But this dish is basically prepared for him, my father-in-law, and my wife. I ate lunch, basically what was leftovers. At this stage, we're salting it and we're putting pepper. I'm not putting a lot because we're going to use the condiments on the back that you see on the wall over there. The soy sauce and the oyster sauce. Those are going to bring their own sauce to the dish. So I try to avoid over salting it. And as you can tell, we actually put salt from higher up, and that allows it to spread out. If you do it low, and if your hands are a little bit wet and sticky, not everything's going to get salt. It's not going to get the flavor that you need. And I didn't do both sides. I only did one side. Next, we're doing the garlic, cutting it up in little bits. You can also use, bottled garlic if you have that. I'm not a fan of it, and they don't have too much of it here. You're more likely to find fresh bulbs, or you can find in sauces here in Peru. But fresh it'll always taste better to me. And if you don't like the strong flavor of garlic, I saw this video recently where you can soak it in water after you've cutting it up and then drain it and then use it. I tried it on one dish, on a Chinese dish I made the other day, and it worked out fine. But finally, we're at the last prep item, which is the sauce. And that's 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. You don't need anything else. If you want to, like I said, I mentioned in one of the videos that won't come out because the software kept corrupting the file. You can also use ginger, which a lot of restaurants use here in Peru to boost the flavor, or even sesame oil. I've tasted that in this dish. I don't use it in this particular recipe. It's more of a traditional antique one, even though it has oyster sauce, which I understand from some Peruvian chefs from the past, that it doesn't belong in it. But a lot of things can be done better, and therefore, it's one of those items that I've added to my recipe. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our wok. That's the main dish, or the main item that I use in my kitchen when I'm trying to do something that's quick. Thin metal, heats really quickly, and it does a great job of searing meats and locking in texture and flavor and juices. If you don't want your meats to be dried out, you're gonna flash it. And in this situation, we're gonna do our fries first. We're gonna use just one pan. We're gonna do our fries first. Probably put about a cup of oil, vegetable oil, in this pan, and we're gonna heat it up to about 360 degrees. And once we start adding in our fries, which are drying off with a towel, as you can tell in the video, you're gonna slide those in on a border, and it's gonna drop the temperature down, but only to about 320 degrees. And that's gonna help you out because the heat, being able to maintain at a high temperature, is gonna allow you to cook this dish much quicker. You're gonna get a good crispy brown color on the outside. And with this potato, the yellow potato that's from Peru, it locks in moisture. And the one thing you really, really want from a French fry, a good French fry for me, is moisture on the inside and crispiness on the outside. And this dish is actually one of those dishes that it plays with that combination. It loves crispiness, but because this is a particular potato that holds moisture really well, once the juices that we're going to add to the dish hits those potatoes, it just starts to fill in, and then you're taking big bites out of some of the most delicious potatoes that you probably ever had. So we're gonna fry these first. And if you ever get one of these potatoes, if you're ever here cooking it, or if you're cooking it out of the country, I have a trick of knowing if it's done, and that's basically the yellow potato does this bulging thing where once it's starting to brown on all sides, it'll bulge up like a bubble, like an air bubble on the inside. And for me, that's my sign that it's cooked. It's cooked inside and outside. And so I don't try to waste any more time for it to explode, because it is a potato that will explode in certain temperatures. I take it out right when it's at that point, because I know it's going to be able to lock in all that steam. That's the most important part for me, is that a good potato, especially like this potato, or even there's another potato here that locks in steam real well. I can't think of the name right now, but yeah, those are great potatoes to use. After we do these 2 portions of fries, we're gonna pour off the oil in a pan that I have on the side. Um, and then we're gonna use the same tiny bit of oil that's around the border of that skillet. And we're gonna use that to fry our steaks. And so our steaks are ready. They're sitting in the side on the side in a bowl. They're seasoned already. I noticed I cut it out at the end of this video, but I noticed that for me it was not as salty, which is good, because like it really wasn't. I wasn't cooking for myself, but it's one of those dishes that when you're eating it, you will notice it more than usual. And some restaurants, particularly restaurants that I've been to, have had it too salty, where I was just like, okay, the texture's good, everything looks good, but they over seasoned it, and that could take away from it. So I would always kind of advise people to be very careful on how much salt or pepper or whatever condiments they want to add to a dish. Be careful. You need to know them. So we're at the stage where we're frying the meats. I give you some tips. First and foremost, you need to know how you want it on the inside. If you want it to be medium rare or well done, or just done. With 1-inch steaks, my recommendation, especially if you have your skillet up to the temperature of 360, you want to make sure that it's flat, that you give it at least 1 to 2 minutes on each side. If you want it medium rare. If you want it rare, it's only 1 minute per side, and that's only just to get it brown. And so one of the things I've used, and you'll see it in the clip, is I use olive oil. So once I see the smoke building up on the border of the wok, I use a little bit of olive oil to make sure that the meat is cooking, and then I'll flip it. And that way I'm locking in flavor, I'm locking in the moisture, and then I'm just moving on to the next step. Same, you see it right there. I literally take the meat, just add a little bit of oil, and then in the center part, I put in the raw meat, and I'll slide the half cooked or the almost cooked meat to the borders, because those are the hottest parts of a wok. Once the temperature starts to drop, once you've added stuff to it. Finally, we're gonna just take our onions and throw them in. I probably, yeah, I made a mistake in the edit here, but I put the last pieces of steak around the border, and then I threw my onions in, and then I remove my pieces of steak. But it is not really like one of those things you have to do. It's one of those tricks that I use to take advantage of time. So yeah, finally we'll put in our garlic, and we'll put in our tomatoes, and we'll let those sear up for a few minutes. All you want to do is make sure that your onions are browning. And if the onions are browning just a bit on the sides, on the back, then you can go ahead and add the tomatoes, and then you can go ahead and add your sauce. Right before I add the sauce, I do use green onions, which are, here in Peru we call them cebolla china, it's like Chinese onions. And I'll use scissors to actually clip those in, instead of, wasting time cutting on the cutting board. But yeah, that's one of those ingredients that I absolutely love. A good cebolla china, green onion. It makes a lot of dishes just pop. And so yeah, at this stage, we're gonna go ahead and do our last part, put in our sauce. And immediately after putting in our sauce, which is the soy sauce, oyster sauce, vinegar, and olive oil, we can immediately throw in our steaks and throw in our fries. And once they're in, it's just a matter of flipping it a few times, getting the juices on everything, and turning off the heat. It's literally, I would say, less than 30 seconds after you add those last two things in that you're pretty much ready to go ahead and serve. Now, my mother-in-law, when she would make her catering dishes, she would use culantro or what is it called? I forget the name. But she used parsley and cilantro as like decorative herbs on top. Not everybody likes those two things. I do. In this recipe, I only use cilantro or what's it called? Corlan. I can't remember the name. Forget it. But that's the problem. 15 years in another country, you start forgetting words in English. Coriander, I think. No, can't be that. Oh well, you know what it is. Um, but yeah, I do that. And so finally, we're here. The dish is ready, ready to serve. I do serve myself a little bit to taste it, so you can see that it's absolutely delicious. And I hope you guys will actually try this dish. It's one of those things that most people in the States, when they do find a Peruvian restaurant, they eat that, they fall in love with it, and then after that, they wish they knew how to make it. And here we are, we're just giving away the secrets. I want you guys to try it. I want you to enjoy it. If you didn't get your dad anything for Father's Day this year, make them this today or tomorrow or whenever you want to. It's a great dish for lunch or dinner. And some people even eat it for breakfast or whatever is left over. And optional, if you want to, you can cook some rice, some white rice, and serve it beside it. And if you want to add a little bit more juices to it, it's always welcome. Anyway, that was what was under the desk. Happy Father's Day. If this is posted after Father's Day, I hope you had a great weekend. And yeah, take care.